Today, this session is hosted by Sarthi Karunakar. Each Sarthi is handpicked by us because of how deeply compassionate they are, how deeply non-judgmental and good listeners that they are. So we very proudly call them Sarthi. Sarthi means guide. Krishna Bhagwan was Arjun's Sarthi. So that's our inspiration. Every Sarthi is available for all senior citizens from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. Pick up a call and talk to them about anything under the sun. They are there for you. So we have legal expert, finance, retirement planning, mental health counseling, spirituality, meditation, chanting, and astrology. These are the 5 areas where we have experts available every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the platform. All you have to do is pick up the call and speak to them and get any advice that you want. We promise all these advices are confidential and highly unbiased. The third thing we do is group sessions. Have a different objective. Some of them are knowledge based sessions, some of them are activity based sessions, and a few are simply support groups for seniors to lean into each other and talk about sensitive topics. Right? WhatsApp community, I hope all of you are part of it. That's our primary place where we announce all the group sessions that are happening. We also have Sukoon Assistant. Sukoon Assistant is available for you from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for any technical doubt or query you may have. If you get a payment link that you're not sure about, you have got an OTP that you're a little wary about, somebody's calling you and you don't know whether it's a genuine caller or not, you're facing challenge with any social media account, or maybe you're facing challenge in booking a cab, give us a call, we will help you out. Right? No questions asked. 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We are there for you. Starting tomorrow, we are launching our another proposition, which is Sukoon Games. Sukoon Games are interactive games which are good for mental health, for brain health. These are all games which are certified by WHO to improve mental cognition. And these games, any senior will be able to play with Sarthis. And while they're playing this game, they can have as much of conversations as they want. All of this combined is Sukoon Unlimited. If you have any suggestions, any feedback, guidance for us on what can we do more, what can we do better, please let those guidance come in. We are here to serve all of you. With that, I'm handing the forum to Dr. Jha and Dr. Sumita Banerjee. Both of them are very special people for me, so I can't be more excited than this session. Over to you.
I think we are very lucky to have amongst us today Dr. Sumita Banerjee. I was reading about her. I got some stuff from Divya, and I felt that what she has done and what she's going to talk about today and share with all the people who have come here, wonderful people, to have spared their valuable time, is something probably was not so relevant a few years back, or maybe a couple of 1 decade back, or 2 decades back. But somehow topics like these become so relevant today. And especially after pandemic, all of us went through pandemic, and we know life has changed for all of us. And so, if you see today, it's very normal to use terms like regret, very normal to use terms like loneliness, very normal to use terms like usko maaf kar do yaar, galti ho gayi to maaf kar do, forgive him or forgive her. And then suddenly you find that age, India is going through a major revolution today in terms of human index and age. Suddenly, I never realized I could get older. No, sorry, I never thought. I don't like being told that you're a certain age bracket. No, no, nobody likes it. Nobody will appreciate it. But what's wrong in that? It's very normal. It shouldn't be a normal thing. Why should we feel conscious of our age? Why should we made to appear that we are at a particular age and therefore we have to behave in a particular manner and we have to act in a particular manner? So life is has changed, and I would say it's changed for the better because we have people like Dr. Sumita Banerjee who can tell us how life can be better, more. And that's what Sukoon is all about. And Sukoon is all about making life better every moment, every day. And that is what we are talking about here. So I don't want to make it a conventional start. I would like to start Dr. Sumita with a question straight away because that's what we want to hear from her. She's an expert. And we would like to know what is the question because that is the idea of this platform and this program. And I'm sure Dr. Sumita will answer all your questions in the best possible way. I'm sure about that. Sure. So the first question which I want to ask Dr. Sumita, why this age factor is becoming such a issue, and I would say an issue means that why are we talking about age? Is aging something which is difficult to, for an individual, or is it something it should come naturally in a person? But I find that it is not easy. So how should people age gracefully and accept it as a normal part of life?
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. So, the question was about aging, and I think the answer to a large extent is in the question itself, because you spoke about acceptance. So, it is the most natural thing, and it is a progression of years. It's a question of how we internally process it. So whether we want to process it as something, or in our internal dialogue talk about it as something to be frightened of or unhappy about, or feel scared about, so that is up to us. And it's a question of whether we really prepare ourselves in some ways, and those steps can be taken. Somebody had once told me that you be prepared for your senior years, start preparing when you're younger. So that is something that is interesting, that when it was said to me, that we can start preparing, but it is not something that one needs to be afraid of or scared of. It's a question of being prepared for it. That's all. So I don't think there's a question of being unhappy about it, because it's a basic fact of life.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. Good. Just tell all of you about Dr. Sumita because it will not be fair if I don't give you some idea where she comes from. She's also a great author, and she's also a very good teacher. She's been a good teacher. She teaches students. She does workshops. Two of her famous books are one of the books are Chorongi Charms, which is a very popular book. You'll get it on Amazon.com. And if you are keen, in fact, book reading has become pretty less these days. But I think one should go and read such books. They're very lovely books are there, and I'm sure it'll keep you occupied. And one is Playhouse Park Street. I can imagine it must be. I would personally myself go and order these books because they sound very, very different and very, very exciting to me. I must go back. So, and Dr. Sumita as I told you earlier, has been an author, and she does workshops. And what we felt today, this could be the best. This could be the best occasion where we could have a person like her to talk about issues of aging. And now the second question, regret. हमें हमेशा हमें लगता है ये क्यों हो गया, ये मैंने क्यों नहीं किया, काश में ये किया होता, अरे यार जिंदगी अच्छी हो जाती. And this regret is always in occupying our mind. It's not making our present better. And we keep on going back, and going back. So, Dr. Sumita, let's come back to you on this. What is this regret? Is it something it grows on you, or is it something you can just dump it off?
So as you said, regret as a word has an unhappy ring to it. It's a question of something that I have done. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. Or maybe something I could have done better. Or maybe something I should not have done. So these are questions that might come up as regret. And as I said, that there is a feeling of, it makes you feel anxious about it. How much we allow it to bother us, whether we bring a closure to it. Again, a lot of these things are up to the choices that we make. But I would also like to add that regret per se is not necessarily a negative thing. Because if we feel that we should not have done something, or we could have done something better, or why did we not do something, then it means that we are engaged with life. We are interested in our own life. There is a sense of participation in our life, and that we want to do something about it. So one of the things is that if we feel remorse, or if we feel sad about it, then there is an option that, okay, is there something that I can do about it now? So I can stay stuck with, some things like, oh, I wish, if only. These are things that should not have happened. What would I do to get another chance? And these questions, if we can only sort of ask ourselves in our mind, instead of going on about if and if I get another chance, I wish I had, what would I do if the situation came up again? Reset the internal mode to, if what is it that I can do about it now? If we ask that question, then there is a step forward that we take. Then there is a option that we have of doing something about it, getting a closure to it, bringing in some peace and some constructive thought to it. And also a moving ahead, not staying stuck in something, not allowing it to become a constant negative loop in our mind. So I think that is the basic question here is, if we do feel it, then we reset the mode in the mind and talk about what we can do about it now. And the second thing is also the fact that we are feeling this. If we are genuinely feeling remorse, we are genuinely feeling sad about it, and that we want to do something to set it right, then there is a actual engagement. Now, there could be situations where people try and justify it. So what if I did? Want to sort of give yourself that answer that, okay, I'll justify it in my mind that, oh, I did it, so what? Then we just stay completely stuck in that loop. We just go on and on and on. So it is up to us. It's always a question of the choice that we make.
Dr. Sumita, is regret a mistake? How close is mistake and regret very close to each other? Or is it different?
No, it is possible that sometimes we do something at that point in time. It's very important. We are usually, regret is something about a thing that we have done or not done in the past. So it's like a rear view mirror. So in that context, at that point in time, a decision that we took, and we are judging ourselves from the present moment. So at that point in time, we did probably may have done what we thought was best at that point in time. It is also possible that we did something by mistake. So there is no hard or fixed answer to this. But we do need to understand that regret is something usually that is done in the past. And to get a better understanding, it is important that we go back and see the context in which that work was done, or that act was done or not done well enough. What was our reality then? If we go back in time and actually look at that, then to a large extent, we get a better picture. It is also a question of not constantly judging ourselves and putting ourselves down. We also need to be compassionate with ourselves. And if we do that, then we get this entire picture. and feel that, okay, I have done this. First is acceptance that I have done it. I don't feel good about it. And I want to do something to rectify it, whatever is possible now. And I'm willing to take that step. So mistake or a regret, I mean act. It could be an act which happened by mistake. It could have been that at
Hmm.
that point in time I did it willingly or didn't do
Okay.
something, which I should have done or could have done.
So what are the common types of regrets which normally happen with people?
So a lot, I think while you were talking, some of the answers were coming up. So usually the thing is I didn't spend enough time with people I could have spent time with. It can also be something to do with, say, I didn't take care of myself as much as I should have. Or it could be that maybe I was very harsh with somebody, which was not necessary. It was too harsh that I shouldn't have been. It could also be a situation where I allow myself to be treated badly and I don't take action then. And later there's an anger and a regret. Why didn't I stand up for myself? Or why didn't I stand up for somebody close to me? So those could be situations where we feel sad at a later point in time. We also sometimes feel opportunities have gone, we didn't do it, and whatever we wanted to, because we all have sort of hidden dreams and we didn't pursue it. So those are things that commonly bring regret.
In fact, just to remind you,
Yes.
I was going through a training program at not now, about 15, 20 years back in Bombay. And at the end of the program, I remember the trainer called us
Yes.
and they said, I'll give you guys a sheet of paper and an envelope and write something which think you should have done, you didn't do. You think you should have done, you didn't do. You won't believe it. I'm telling all of you friends, it's not a secret. It's a reality of life. Or 80% of us wrote, you know what? They wrote, and they said, you can tell us whom to post it to. हम आपके लिए post भी कर देंगे. We all wrote, I love you to my wife. We forget. And we have
Very
regret
much.
about it.
Yes.
हम घर में बैठे रहते हैं रोज और हम सोचते हैं कि वो तो मेरे पास में ही है. लेकिन we don't realize sometimes. And that regret really, and I was alone that time. I was away from home. And it came out impromptu. Didn't have to think too much about
Yeah.
it. He said, have you gone mad? What happened? आप भी क्या लिख के भेजा मॉम को? हमने क्या भेजा? कुछ नहीं भेजा, नॉर्मल भेजता हूँ.
Yeah.
ऐसे ही भेजना क्या गलत है क्या? But this is what happens. I always feel. I'm sorry, Dr. Sumita, it's not my
No, no, and
area.
this
I've
is
just
so
thought
an
I'll
interesting
share this.
question. Very much. Absolutely. That's why I said one gets so tied up with the routine things in life, then when it comes to actually expressing affection or expressing gratitude or just, telling somebody who you value, acknowledging that, and especially the ones closest to us. Very often that takes the back burner. We don't do it. And then suddenly we realize. So
Yeah.
I know if there was an incident that, where a girl told me that, her father was very ill and she suddenly realized that, and her father at that point in time could understand, but he couldn't really speak. So what did she do? She suddenly felt, I have never told him all the things that he has helped me with in life and that are so important to me in life today. And she had just got very busy looking after him, getting the medicines, getting the doctor, getting all those things done, but not really actually telling him what she felt.
Hmm.
So she said that she went to him and he couldn't answer, but she looked at him and he could hear, and she told him exactly all the little things, including that he had given her a pet when she was very small, a little strawberry patch that she had. So it gave her an interest in gardening. Little things, how he would take her to school and introduce her to nature because she's very fond of nature. And she said that I understood because my father's eyes welled up. So, when she was telling me, so he heard and she felt a huge sense of sukoon after she had said it because she just felt
Yeah.
felt good about
Right.
it inside.
Right.
So,
Right.
yes, those are the things. So, once we need to just sit down and think that, in fact, one of the exercises that we could do, that think of 5 situations in our own life where we constantly, whether large or small, if we have some regrets in our mind, and we change the internal dialogue, as I said, from if only to this is what I can do now. And if this is something that we can do as an exercise, each one of us, then I'm sure, as you said, that you went for that meeting or that get together and, that it came up as to what people were regretful about. This is something that we could do maybe after the session today, that any 5 things, that any small or big regret, and if we keep telling ourselves, oh, why did I do it? Or if only things were different, and change it to this is what I can do about it, or this is what I will do about it now, then we can actually take that step forward.
Dr. Sumita, very well
Yeah.
put. Actually, very well put. Tell me, how can forgiveness make you overcome regret? Forgiveness can it firstly, and if it can, how?
So, what is forgiveness? If I ask you, what to you is forgiveness?
It's a very difficult thing for me to do. Anyway, I'm not.
No,
I
but
am find it.
what to you would be forgiveness? What does the word forgiveness actually, how do you talk about, how would you, you know?
See, for me, forgiveness would be, ठीक है, हुआ. It's a new day. Let's begin again. That's it. That's it.
No,
I
that is
forget it.
moving on. But the word forgiveness, what does it mean to you? That's what
It
I'm trying.
means I take it makes me feel lighter when I forgive
Mm,
somebody. It
mm,
made me make more powerful. I become more powerful when I forgive. It gives me the confidence that I have the ability to forgive. Ability. See, everybody, a lot of people are not able to come to terms to forgive. You know why? They're very weak. You have to be strong to forgive. Forgiveness requires power, requires strength, requires confidence, requires a lot of courage. You can't forgive so easily. You can't. Because when you forgive, you obviously have gone through something very, very serious. So forgiveness requires, I think one has to be very courageous, one has to be very bold, one has to forget and keep one thing in mind. It's about the ahead. We are talking about the present, not the past. Forgiveness is moving ahead with the present, not with the past. That is the
okay,
one thing.
so there is the basic thing with forgiveness would be
Yeah,
that it's a change in our first and foremost, forgiveness is not about the other person.
correct,
It is
correct.
not just about the other person. Forgiveness is a way by which we free ourselves first
Absolutely.
and we free the other person. Okay?
Absolutely.
So any such feeling that we have, which is an unhelpful feeling, whether it be regret, whether it be some sort of a grudge or anger that we are holding on to, all these things have a habit of nesting in our own body. It is we who really become the carriers of that. And they have a habit, it's not just an emotional thing. Ultimately, if we sort of harbor it long enough, it finds some sort of a nest in our own body and comes
Absolutely.
out in aches and pains and this and that, all sorts of things. So, very often, I would say that forgiveness, once a person has actually genuinely sort of moved on or let go of something, then it is a personal freeing also. And it also frees the other person. Now, how another person acts, receives our forgiveness is not up to us. But
Yes,
it is
absolutely.
up to us whether we can forgive. So, what is it? It's basically a change in our attitude towards a person who we feel has wronged us in some way. That we've gone through something which should not have been done to us, that I should not have had to go through this. So, there is you let go of that grudge. And that is, it's freeing oneself. And what are those thoughts that come? Revenge, hitting back, anger, blame, resentment. So it means pardoning the person and sorting out our negative emotions. This is what forgiveness. But forgiveness does not necessarily mean that we forget in the sense that we
Absolutely.
completely wipe it out. No.
Mhm.
And it also does not mean that, suppose one has been a close friend with somebody and something has happened which needs to be forgiven, then it doesn't mean that necessarily you go back to being very, very close friends again or close buddies again. It may happen. If it happens, it's a bonus, if one can go back. But it takes a long time. It takes a much longer time to really go back. So, why I say is that you don't necessarily forget about it, is because you don't want to be vulnerable to being hurt. It's a lesson learned also that, this is something I've gone through. I have processed it. I have understood it. I know that it is harmful for me. Seeing that person makes my anger go up. I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to see the person and feel okay, comfortable. You have a right, I have a right. It's okay. We are both there. But from my end, I'm letting it go because it's good for me. And if you receive it and you feel free, good for you. So that is one forgiveness. But there is also the other aspect of asking for forgiveness. That is also a very important part of forgiveness. And that is also something that we need to be able to do. Once we accept that we have hurt somebody, somebody has felt bad about something that we have done. And once we are prepared and we've told ourselves that, okay, it's important enough for me to apologize. So, first one apologizes and says, I'm sorry. Be very specific about what you're apologizing about and ask for forgiveness. And, please forgive me. Again, whether the person forgives or not is not up to us, but we have done our bit because it helps us to say sorry also. So, forgiveness is forgiving and even asking for forgiveness. As far as I'm concerned, there are two facets to it.
Okay. But but tell me, I mean, does really forgiveness uh, does it make the person feel weaker at times? Does the other person feel that वो तो over compromise कर लिया, वो तो कमजोर है, इसलिए मान लिया, forgive कर दिया? Does it give that? And therefore, people tend to
No,
do
no,
not forgive so easily.
no, there's a very interesting quote by Desmond
Mm.
Tutu who says, forgiveness is not weak. It takes courage to face and overcome powerful emotions. Okay, so there are many stories also about Nelson Mandela, about what he went through when he was imprisoned. And when he met the prison guard years later, who had been extremely, rough with him. Then I won't go, it's a long story, so I won't take up that time. If anybody has an interest, one can, look at it as to how he actually dealt with that prison guard later. Because he said it's, uh, my philosophy in life is not to just hit back. And in fact, the way he actually talked to the guard or dealt with the guard or uh, engaged with the guard was something that brought home a much, much, much more powerful, stronger sort of a lesson for the guard. So basically, to answer your question, I think these examples, it's not a question of weakness. We are not doing it because we are weak. It's not easy to acknowledge that we have done something wrong, and to actually accept it, I think is a definitely a source of strength for ourselves to be able to do that.
Okay. Your book, which is titled Script Your Life Your Way.
Yeah.
Why is it titled like this? What do you mean? Are you trying to give an impression through your book that these days people are not able to spend life their way? They are being compromised. They have to hold themselves back. अरे बेटा को खराब लग जाएगा, बेटी को खराब लग जाएगा, डॉटर इन लोग को खराब लग जाएगा, सन इन लोग को खराब लग जाएगा। मैं तो अब ओल्ड हो गया हूँ, अब मुझे ये नहीं करना, वो नहीं करना, मुझे एक कोने में बैठना है। इज इट दैट? आर यू ट्राइंग टू give something like that? Are you highlighting at that aspect of aging and being alone at times?
So from what I'm hearing from what you're saying, that there is an underlying insecurity in the concept of getting old, in the concept, in the thought of being abandoned if I do something which is my way. Is that what
Hmm.
you're hinting at?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
what
The title somehow can give that impression that maybe you are trying to tell people, come on, hold yourself. It's not that.
script
Take
your life
charge.
your way is nothing to do with aging. Script your
Okay.
life your way is to do with right through life. Okay? Because it is your life, it is our life. So we play a lot of roles in our life. And sometimes the roles, you know, it's a question again of how we look at the role. We play the role of a parent, we play the role of um, a child of somebody, we play the role of grandparents, of friends, multiple roles that we play in life. So there can be a lot of demands. Each role can have its own expectation, as we expect also. And that if I'm a friend, however much it may be said that the more you expect, the more open you are to being hurt, which is also probably true. But roles have their own demands. So, first and foremost, are we going to lead our life trying to please others or get validation from others all the time? If that is the way, then we never lead our life. We never ever really talk in terms of our own fulfillment of our potential. So, uh, there are various things I would like to actually read an example of a case that there is. So this was a young girl. I mean, this is a creative writing class, but I would like to share this just to show what scripting can mean. So I'm reading this. A student said, "Ma'am, I don't like the ending of the story." So this was a creative writing class where the students were asked to change the end of the story, and they could change the thought process of the protagonist and give a different ending to the story. So she said that, "Ma'am, I don't like the ending. It does not make me feel good." So the teacher says, "So what can you do?" "Simply changing the last line will not do." So she said, this little girl, "I can change her thoughts, the thoughts of the protagonist." And she said, this protagonist, she could make different choices. Instead of changing her school and running away because she was getting bullied, she could form a group of students who suffered like her or supported her. They could organize a protest petition. A group would be stronger, and those bullying would think twice before they did or said mean things. So she changed the entire thought process of this girl. So the girl had choices. She could have left the school, she could have run away. She was facing situations which were not in her control in the school. But she chose not to run away and to face it intelligently and effectively, and script the story her own way. And that is how she sort of decided to make the choices so she could script her own life in that sense. So, one of the things is to own your own story. Very often we are leading our life, but we are not really engaging with our life. Our life is going by next to us, and we are mere of our life. We just allow it to just go by. And that's why very often there are regrets later. Why did I not do something about it? Why did I not engage in it? Why didn't I not sort of do the things that I wanted to do at that point in time. So own your own story, because we have to live it. Whoever it is has to live that story. Be proactive and interactive with our own life. Engage with our own life. The other thing is, if we are scripting our life, suppose somebody says that, write your own story, we write it in the present tense. And what does that mean, writing it in the present tense? It means that it is happening to me. It is not something that I am planning in the distant past, maybe one day. Write it, actually script it in the present as if it is happening right now. For example, I'm writing the first chapter of my book, or I'm ordering 15 cardigans to give to the orphanage, or having lost 5 kilograms by doing intermittent fasting, I'm feeling so much better. I volunteered to help at the home for senior citizens thrice a week for 2 hours. I have fixed an appointment with the lawyer to understand the legal details of setting up my consultancy firm. These are things that the person may be wanting to do and always procrastinating. I'll do it at some point in time. But write the script in the present so that there's an urgency to it. And if we can do that, then we are scripting our own life. And every time we reach, and not have a hugely difficult goal, set small goals, goals that are actually achievable. And do that and cheer ourselves along as we are going along. So, an interesting thing is, when we read our own script, is it interesting for us? Am I writing an interesting script of my own life? Am I interesting? If I'm not interesting, then I would not be interesting in, for myself either. So I have to just keep that interest in my own story, that spark in my own story, active and alive all the time. Age is not the factor. We can do it in whichever way we want. And you mentioned the pandemic. Pandemic was a very important time when a lot of people rewrote their script because they found a lot of interesting things about themselves which they had not done earlier. So they actually rediscovered themselves.